The legislature has begun the work of passing budget bills, with lengthy floor sessions occurring in both chambers. Last week, after 6 hours of debate and on a party line vote, the Senate passed the Judiciary and Public Safety funding package.
This bill is, in fact, about preventing crime, because when we can prevent crime from happening to begin with, we keep our communities safe, we keep our kids safe, and we spend a lot less money prosecuting and incarcerating folks.
This bill does many things. It provides that the state will assume the cost of all criminal sexual exam kits, because right now in Minnesota, victims of sexual assault are often required to pay for the cost of an exam kit. This is unacceptable. Thankfully, we're taking care of that by including funding in this budget, making sure the state covers these costs.
This bill with the MRRA will make 92% of those currently in prison eligible for early release. This is at a time when people already don't feel safe in their homes.
As with every omnibus bill, I suppose there are good things and there are bad things in the bill, things we agree and disagree with. I appreciate that we're finally dealing with fentanyl. I appreciate the funding for the Youth Intervention Program, a bipartisan initiative that was supported by everybody on the committee. But there are more things in this bill that concern me. One, the comprehensive review to the Sentencing Guidelines Commission, that's concerning. And while the Department of Corrections is getting a lot more money, there's no guarantee that those funds are going to go to where they are most desperately needed, which is to the salaries of our corrections officers.
Many believe, even in the law enforcement community, that crime will continue to rise, especially this year. Neighborhoods, many of them live in fear, especially in the metro area. And law enforcement officers are put at risk every day. Despite a record surplus, this budget bill is nowhere near enough to address that type of crisis that I just described.
What we have before us today is a balanced, multi-pronged approach to keeping Minnesotans safe, to improving access to justice, and enhancing human rights for all Minnesotans. We make robust investments in our communities for crime prevention, in high-quality law enforcement, in holding criminals accountable, and supporting victims of crime.
Senator Ron Latz, chair of the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee, now joins me in the studio. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Shannon.
The governor, you and other DFLers have long talked about getting at some of the root causes of crime, and the budget surplus gives you an opportunity to fund programs that would attempt to do that. The bill contains grant funding for community crime and violence prevention and for youth intervention programs. So how might these initiatives make a difference?
If we want to bend the long-term curve downward, we have to get to kids when they're recognizably on a path toward a more criminal activity and divert them to a publicly proactive, safe, and healthy path in their lives. That means we need to have the resources in the schools to recognize when kids are having trouble. We need to have the resources in the field. We need to have the community programs available to address them. This bill makes game-changing, substantial investments in youth intervention programs and community crime prevention programs to identify where violence may occur, to provide alternatives to kids, to create violence interrupters when there's a series of violence starting to happen, where they can get into the community, can talk with folks, try to tamp that down, to provide additional law enforcement resources to address these as well. The long term is prevention. That also means drug and alcohol treatment. That also means mental health treatment, especially coming out of the pandemic when kids were so isolated with school closures and so on. We need to do all of that. For many, many years in the budget, they have not been the top priority. There's just been sense that if we bring the hammer down hard, and if we make the hammer bigger, that we're going to stop crime or prevent crime. But that's an unbalanced approach. We didn't make meaningful investments, certainly not substantial enough investments on the prevention side. The problem with prevention is you don't see an immediate budgetary impact. You don't see the savings realized in our 2 or 4 year budget. but we know from the evidence that they work. We have to be willing to make those investments now to prevent crime in the future. This budget does that.
And so those same elements that you want to tamp down on or address before people get into criminal activities, then it's those same initiatives then that are funded now on the back end. Senator Warren Limmer, the ranking Republican member of the committee, said the bill represents a softer view of crime, and he's pointing to his concern about the new program called the Minnesota Rehabilitation and Reinvestment Act, or MRRA. But what you're talking about is some of those same problems, getting at those root causes, but then to an incarcerated population, because this program would allow eligible prisoners then the opportunity to be released earlier if they complete prescribed rehabilitative services. So then on the flip side, what impact does this have?
Shannon, we know that 95% of the incarcerated people are eventually going to be released back into the communities by the very terms of their sentence. So our job, as I see it, is to try to prepare them to be successful when they re-enter our communities. Successful meaning not committing new offenses, finding housing, finding jobs, being productive, tax-paying, healthy members of our community. Right now, while they are in prison, there are optional programs for them to attend. Sex offender treatment, chemical dependency treatment, mental health treatment and support, getting their GEDs or higher education degrees. Some of them need to learn how to read, but they don't have to do that. This will create incentives. The MRRA will create incentives and will reward them for participating in these programs. Just like our capitalist system rewards profit that's their reward. You know, you make money if you do well. Here the reward is their profit is getting out of jail a little bit earlier. They're getting out now by law at about 2/3 of their sentence. The standard is 66 2/3% of their executed sentence. If they do these incentives, they successfully complete them, they can get their release time reduced to as far as 50%. We know from statistics and evidence 38 other states have earned reward programs for release, and those incentives work. Even if people are somewhat incorrigible, you get them into the programs, they learn about it. Many of them, the hope is, and the evidence is, will learn how to be better. They'll get the tools, they'll get their education, they'll get skills to be back in the workforce too. That's helpful. That will reduce crime for everyone when they get out and will make everyone safer as a result.
The finance bill funds two initiatives that aren't actually in the bill, two initiatives that you've been working towards for many years and that actually are in the House's finance bill. The first is the extreme risk protection orders, which allows the court to remove weapons from someone deemed a danger to themselves or others. The second is requiring background checks on firearm transfers, and that's a loophole that gun safety advocates have been wanting to close for several years. Assuming that both of these measures do become law this session, how will public safety be improved?
Well, there are two things. We know in greater Minnesota, the greatest source of gun deaths is suicide. And most of those suicides, there are signs that the person is suicidal. They're having trouble for one reason or another. In the metro area, it tends to be homicide. And again, there are signs, usually ahead of time, that people are in trouble. We also know that there are plenty of people who get a hold of guns who, by current law, are not allowed to possess firearms. So these two initiatives are designed to address those concerns. The background check bill would close these massive loopholes that allow people to purchase firearms outside of the current system through licensed dealers where they do get background checks. This will force many more transactions into a background check situation by requiring everyone to get, almost everyone I should say, not family transfers, immediate family transfers like grandparents to grandkids and so on. And there are about 17 exceptions in the statute. But most people will have to get a permit to purchase. To get that permit from their local law enforcement, they would have to go through a background check. So we can screen out those who are not eligible under state law to possess firearms. The red flag bill, or the extreme risk protective order bill, will give a judge, under certain circumstances, the authority to order that firearms be turned over. We've had situations where families want cops to get the guns away from their nephew or their brother who is showing signs of great distress and threatening harm, has firearms in their home, and the cops can just throw up their hands and say they haven't done anything to take steps toward committing a crime, we can't take his guns. This would give a pathway to get those guns that would save family members or that individual's own life. Through hearings, either before the order or immediately after the order, full due process under our current Constitution, but it will in fact save lives. And the other states that have this, Republican and Democratic states, have reduced their suicide rates substantially as a result of these kinds of laws.
The bill also funds fully the Department of Human Rights. What could this mean for the agency and also for the public?
For too many years under GOP control, the Department of Human Rights has been threatened with total elimination or substantial reductions in their resources. We also know that the Human Rights Department provides a lot of training and education to businesses on how to comply with our state human rights laws, our civil rights laws, to treat all people, their employees and customers, with the respect that they deserve. And we also know that when cases arise, when there are allegations of discrimination in the workplace or from customers, that the department needs to have the resources to investigate those complaints promptly. They take an unbiased, objective approach to evaluating the businesses that are accused of wrongdoing, and the allegations, the alleged victims, have a right to present information. And in some very small percentage of cases, but substantial enough where it's important to do this, there is a finding that discrimination actually occurred, or a reasonable belief that it actually occurred. The department needs to have the resources to turn those complaints around promptly and to provide that training. This bill will give them those resources.
Senator Ron Latz, there is so much in this bill, and we've only just scratched the surface, but I want to thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.